Pratiman, Nirmal and Das stepped on the Bhagirathi summit too at the height of 6,512 meters and were very elated at their achievement. All their efforts had borne them this sweet reward. Difficult trails, steep rise, snow so squashy that the legs would get stuck, knee deep, at places no path at all. Then their leader Pratiman would make a way by pressing the snow hard with his foot. At the last phase, they tied ropes to each other's waist for support while finding the path. The rope enabled them to hold on if anyone slipped by chance. When they reached the summit, they realized that it was risky to wait there for long. The sky was overcast and it would start raining any moment. They started to climb down immediately. Das was leading in front while going down, followed by Nirmal, and Pratiman was the last in the row. It needs extra care while descending. The success releases stress, and often the three climbers were going steadily towards the summit of Bhagirathi 2 in central Garhwal. The snow now grew softer, and at places they went in up to their knees, so they headed straight up for the summit ridge, when suddenly results in a gulf. There are more chances of accidents at such times. All the three were cautiously trampling the snow while walking down the mountains. Pratiman was particularly pleased at the success of the campaign under his leadership. He was getting down merrily with one hand in his pocket when suddenly his left foot got entangled in the rope hanging out from Nirmal's sack just below him. Pratiman stood on his right, trying to free his trapped foot by shaking it. In fact, he should have been sitting down to do this. It is very difficult to maintain balance on one foot during a steep descent. He lost his mental cool in the elated state of mind. Before realizing it, he lost his balance and started sliding. Nirmal had no idea of what had happened. He was pulled towards Pratiman because of the rope tied to his waist. Within seconds, they started sliding downwards at a great speed. Das noticed it and had enough presence of mind to put his axe into the ice. All this happened within a blink. Even he got jerked because of the rope and started slipping. Bumping against rocks on both sides, stumbling, all of them skid for about 400 meters. Das was the first to open his eyes. It was difficult for him to even breathe. He had severe chest and back pain. He somehow managed to stand up. A little away, he saw Pratiman wailing. He and Nirmal were tightly fastened to each movement by other. Even his pulse could not be felt. Das knew he was no more. He was overwhelmed with fear and grief. He somehow controlled himself. He looked around that the tents of three of his trekker friends might be close to the accident spot. He was right. At a distance of 300 meters, three of his friends were eagerly waiting for them to come back. Das could not think of going away, leaving Pratiman behind in this condition. He started calling out to them for help. Surprisingly, even the heavily wounded Pratiman joined in. After some time, they saw the flashlights coming in their direction. Das saw rays of hope in that light. But in the dusk, the friends could not see anything and went back. He started shouting again at the top of his voice so that they could discern the direction. But the same thing happened again. The friends felt that they were raising a tent for the night and celebrating their success with all the clamor. The flashlights retreated and Das lost all hope. He was very nervous with the idea of spending the night all alone at a height of 6,000 feet. All his things had scattered when he came down tumbling. He did not have his sweater, water, or food with him. Sharp winds were whipping him like a knife. He was sure that he would not live to see the sun the next day. He was puffing as though he had just run a marathon. He sat there frozen like a lump of ice in one place. It was 8:30. His wristwatch slipped from his wrist, and that petty action made him wake up as if someone had pierced a pin in his body. His numb brain became active. The first thing he did was to put on his hand gloves. He pulled the hood of his jerkin. I cannot afford to sleep even for a moment if I want to be alive, he told himself. He started rubbing his palms to enable circulation of blood. He kept moving his knees and toes. After a couple of minutes, he tried to stand up. The snow on his jerkin froze and hardened like wood, and it made a creaking sound with each movement. To boost his morale, he remembered his siblings and friends. He started thinking about his job and the promotion that was due. He thought of all the things he wished to do in life for which he needed to live. He got so obsessed with these thoughts that he forgot that he was facing peril. He even felt that his friend was sitting next to him. Such hallucinations are common at high altitude where oxygen is scarce, but Das decided to take it in the right way without getting confused. He kept talking to his friend the whole night. At dawn, he got his senses back. Beyond him, Pratiman was still crying in pain. It was impossible for Das to carry him down all by himself. Again, he started calling out to his friends. Flashlights got lit in the tents. Das got a sense of direction. His friend was still beside him. Das had not fully recovered from the hallucinations. He started going down with his friend. He reached the plane crossing a small cleft with his help when he saw the search party. He hugged his friends tightly. It took some time for him to realize that he was still alive. He told them that Pratiman was there too. Two of them immediately went up to rescue him. One accompanied Das to the tent below. The friend who had given him company the whole night, however, had disappeared now. He went to the tent. The friends carried Pratiman down in a sleeping bag. They all tried their best to save his life, but in vain. Pratiman had left them following Nirmal. This was a great blow, greater even than the injuries. For 15 days, Das was in a hospital under treatment. When he went back home, Das received great praise and appreciation. It was only because of his strong willpower that he could spend a lonely night at an altitude of 6,000 feet. His eyes fill up with tears even now, every time he remembers the incident. Tears of joy remembering that unknown friend, and tears of grief thinking of Pratiman and Nirmal. More care is needed while descending the summit than ascending. Though an experienced trekker like Pratiman knew this, he made a small mistake. The single error of shaking his foot rather than sitting down to free his foot. But he and Nirmal got a life sentence for that. Every mountaineer should learn a lesson from this. But this ought to be a lesson for everyone. Whatever the achievement or success, may it be conquering a Himalayan summit or securing a good score in an examination, one must always keep one's feet rooted firmly on the ground without losing one's cool.